Hello, North Central Washington, and welcome to episode 2 of season 11 of Network TV, the show that shines a spotlight on the cutting edge of technology, education, and entrepreneurship, right here from the heart of our vibrant region. I'm your host, David Mabee, marketing director at NCW Tech Alliance, and in this episode, we're zeroing in on our entrepreneurship pillar, bringing you an engaging discussion that's all about turning innovative ideas into successful ventures. Today, we're thrilled to have Siroky and Kirk Duncan with us, two remarkable entrepreneurs who not only share a background in the dynamic ski industry, but also exemplify the spirit of innovation and the drive to make a meaningful impact through their work. Join us as they unfold their unique journeys, offering valuable insights and inspiration for anyone looking to navigate the exciting world of entrepreneurship. Welcome back to Network TV. I'm excited to introduce you to Kirk Duncan and Siroky. How are you guys doing today?
Life is good.
Life is good. All right, Kirk and Carly, I guess give me a little bit of intro about your backgrounds and what you're currently doing. We'll start with you, Kirk.
And so I graduated from the University of Washington. I worked my way through in food service, and I ended up buying the food service at Mount Baker ski area and operated that for 10 years, then got into ski area consulting and just been traveling around working with half the ski areas in the country. Ended up in Juneau, Alaska, running a ski area up there, and then the Public Works Department, Parks and Rec, retired 2.5 years ago. And now I'm back working for the Small Business Development Center, helping small businesses improve their profitability, as well as helping new people, new businesses get started.
All right. So we're going to dive into this, but Carly, let's get a little introduction on you as well so we can kind of tie all this together for the audience at home there.
Sounds good. Well, I'm basically just a different version of Kirk. So also love skiing in Alaska, and I'm a local girl, went to Eastmont High School, and then I went to college on the west side, started my career in marketing, and built up my business, Karma Design, so we're a marketing agency. And then I'm also a patroller at Mission Ridge and did some time in Alaska as a guide up there. So
we all have the common thread of ski industry here. So I guess I'm interested to know what Kirk first, what drew you to the ski industry and kind of how did you get that going there?
It was interesting because I wasn't drawn by skiing. I was drawn by, one, I love food service and hospitality, and two, the unique opportunity of a seasonal business. It starts and it stops. And I just really, really liked that.
Right.
And then I went on and people saw food service as a necessary evil, so a lot of ski areas hired me to make their problems go away.
And so when you say food services, did you take over like kitchens at the restaurant then, or I mean at the resorts, or is this bringing in like a taco truck or like some sort of side?
What I would do is I would work with their existing staff and improve the operation. So I didn't actually work in the operation. I just told people what to do. It was a beautiful thing.
Sounds like a good one. And Carly, what drove you to the ski industry, and kind of what have you done in the ski industry?
Well, I was drawn by skiing, and I grew up skiing and rode Mission as a young girl, and kind of got to the point where I was getting bored. And so I thought, how can I make this more difficult? A theme of entrepreneurialism in life. And so I started patrolling down in Ashland, Oregon, and now, like I said, I volunteer with the Mission Ridge Ski Patrol. Shout out to the crew. And they're great, and it's like starting over. It's like learning to walk again.
Yeah, and I know especially with Ski Patrol, those are a tight-knit group of people, especially at Mission Ridge. I know that a lot of those people have been around for a really long time. Delcy, shout out to Delcy, probably, or not Bird, amazing human being. So what's that dynamic like working with the ski patrollers versus like working with somebody you're doing business with?
That's a good question. I mean, maybe I like it because I get to be told what to do.
Right.
Whereas I tell people what to do in my day job. And so on my volunteer days, I get to turn all that off and just be outside and be analog, and they say jump and I say how high.
Awesome. Okay, so Carly, what inspired you to start Karma Design and the 509 Female Founders?
Yeah, so Karma Design, my branding and web agency, started because I've always been fascinated with the psychology of people and how we work and how we make decisions, and somehow I wanted to see if I could manipulate that for good,
yeah.
hopefully. And so I wove in all of the marketing and people, stuff that I like. And along the way, I worked with so many small businesses, medium-sized businesses, that I got to know the owners, and they would kind of come to me for more than just advice on my logo, my brochure, my website. They wanted to know about operations and finance and things that I didn't know about. So I went off and got some education through Goldman Sachs, and then started this mastermind to teach local women business owners hard skills.
And so that's the 509 Female Founders, that's the separate, is that a path, or is it as an actual company that you started to do this, or how does that all tie in?
It is, for all intents and purposes, a DBA under Karma, but it is a 9-month mastermind where a small group of women, last year it was around 6 or 7, are together for 9 months, and each month there's a different focus area, such as marketing, sales, and then everything in that month aligns with that subject. And so they're learning together through hosts, venue hosts in this area, guest speakers, audiobooks, etc.
And then Kirk, does that tie into the small business development that you're doing as well? Has there been a tie-in with women doing the 509 Female Founders and the small business development that you're part of?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had several have come over from Carly's organization, and so we just help them maybe get a little bit more in the weeds in terms of developing business plans, and if people want financing, they're going to have to create a business plan for banks, and so we actually provide that expertise and sit down with them and handhold them and walk them right through the process.
Okay, so if Carly's your part to get them the inspiration and kind of the guidance on how to get going, and then Kirk comes in and helps them with business plans and financing and things like that.
I think that's an accurate description.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so when is the next Female Founders that's going to happen?
Good question. Yeah, I just made the decision to postpone it this year. It was kind of a heartbreaking decision, but it was really difficult to run. It takes a ton of work, and so I'm debating whether it'll be maybe an every 2 years sort of thing, like a conference, just to build up the critical mass to do it again. But just stay tuned. Okay.
And then, yeah, so we'll stay tuned, and we'll have links to your website and things like that. So what's the overall goal then to get these female founders? Do you just get them rolling and going, and it's kind of like push them off, and then Kirk comes through and you're doing their small business development and they're getting financing and things like that? Or kind of what's the life cycle that you have with them? And then what's the life cycle that, Kirk, you would have with a small business?
Yeah, so our program is 9 months long, and it's not an accident, the term of gestation of a human being, and it's designed to start a growth opportunity from beginning to end. So if you have a new sector you want to break into, a new product you want to launch, or if you're starting a business from scratch, it starts with market research, it moves into branding, and it follows a natural progression of how you might build a business. So then at the point at which we're ready to get into, say, something like finance, we would talk to Kirk and say, hey, we want a forecast. We need to learn how to read our balance sheets. How do we make assumptions? Things like that.
So then, Kirk, that's your focus then. You don't really help. Do you help people brainstorm new businesses and things like that, or do they really kind of have to have that molded when they come and see you, and then they work on spreadsheets? And
I think that's where Carly comes in, is helping women particularly get that self-confidence to start a business. And then once the idea is there, then I work with people. And I work with lots of people who come in with some pretty strange ideas. But I will never tell them it's a good idea or a bad idea. I simply walk them through the process. And at some point in time, they go, oh, I'm not going to make any money, am I?
Right.
Right. And so it's really up to them to do that. But I think that there's just an issue where people lack that confidence to do it. And I think Carly just does an outstanding job getting women to feel more comfortable and understanding the process. And what does it mean? They still have to live, right? I mean, they still have to take care of families. They still have to do all this sort of thing. And so Carly takes care of that. And then I come in and actually put down the nuts and bolts on a piece of paper.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I also run a small business, but DJing and things like that.
Nice.
And the scariest part is, all right, if I do this full time and COVID hits, which happened to me, and you lose all your business, then you're stuck. So I get that part of being afraid to go all in on something. I think that's what you really need to do to be successful in a small business. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, when I started the food service at Mount Baker ski area, I was just dumb. And so I didn't have to go all in. I just was.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. But yes, I think you do have to really, really believe in it. And if you don't, you're probably not going to be successful.
Right.
And also to do your research. We just met with a client yesterday for my agency who needs market research around identifying whether their business idea is going to be viable. So they might be working with us to try to gather data on how many hundreds of potential prospects are there in this sector that we're looking to break into. So when I'm talking to people about a business idea, I'll also try not to say if it's good or bad, but I will say go do your research if you can.
Right. This has been fascinating. We got to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to dive more into the consulting services they offer, also get into more of the, the weeds of what people should be doing or looking to do if you're trying to start a small business. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break right here on Network TV on NCW Live. All right, welcome back to Network TV. We just got into some of the background of Kirk and Carly here, and now we're going to kind of dive into more of the consulting they have to offer and some strategies and things like that we should look for as people trying to start our own businesses. But first off, Carly, what are some of the unique challenges that females, particularly, what are some of those unique challenges that they face that you've noticed through your Karma design and also through your 509 female founders?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So part of talking about gathering data just before the break, tracking registration for the mastermind and just looking at our clients was noting why they said no if they didn't sign up. And there were 3 reasons: time or bandwidth, cost, and family. And that was a stat that would probably not come up if it was a group for men, but a lot of women said no because they had obligations like that. So that was interesting to me. Plus, we were talking during the break about self-confidence. There's definitely an imposter syndrome for women thinking they don't belong in business, but it's now the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. I call them Kirk's fangirls. It seems all of the women like to talk to Kirk about their business, or there's just a lot of women starting businesses. But he is fantastic at, like we were saying, taking the woman who's now empowered and ready to start a business and getting into the weeds and the details.
So Kirk, in your time at the Small Business Development, what's the C? The Center. You've been there 2 years now?
Yep.
So have you noticed an increase in women coming over and trying to become entrepreneurs or seeking your services?
I think it's interesting because there's actually more women starting businesses than there are men. In the SBDC, we deal with both existing businesses and new businesses. So the existing businesses are more men, and people wanting to get into business are more women.
And is there any sort of, just curious, is there any sort of underlying theme or business type that they're trying to do, or is this kind of all across the board?
Oh, it's all across the board. All across the board.
That's amazing. And same thing with you, it's just
Yeah, and I've even seen some stats on the size of these businesses, and a lot of them are small because they're just starting, or they're a hobby business, or they're a side hustle. Actually, I think it's only less than 2% of women-owned businesses exceed the 1 million in revenue mark. So I'd definitely like to see them graduate up into that. But it's the beginning stages of women kind of, getting their feet wet.
Yeah, I would caution, I think everybody wants to grow fast, and I've seen that be very bad for businesses. I feel from the businesses I've seen, I've been a part of a startup, I've started my own business, but it's like I never wanted to grow too fast because I want to be able to under promise, over deliver.
Nice.
So is that what's the kind of the strategy, I guess, or is there any sort of philosophy around that, or is it really just based off of the person, what they're trying to do, and kind of their decision?
Well, for me, one of the interesting questions I ask all my clients, and I tell them, you don't have to answer now, but how much money do you want to make in a year? And they go, what? And they go, as much as I can. And I go, I can't help you.
Right.
You need a target to be able to do that. And so I think that's one of the most important aspects. And growing too quickly, okay, so you wanted to make $125,000. You didn't say you wanted to make $250,000.
Right.
And so really building your business and then getting it established, because I've seen people grow too quickly and they run out of cash. They can be extremely profitable,
Yeah.
but they run out of cash.
And I think that's the thing I've seen is you don't understand, like, you're making what you think is decent money, but you've got all this overhead. And if you have more goods than you're selling at the time and you've extended yourself out to banks or whoever, they're not going to wait. They're going to come and get their money. So, yeah. Anything you want to add on to that train of thought?
That's just the importance of learning how to read financial documents, because being fluent in that is so critical. And I didn't know how until recently, and through the Goldman Sachs, this was the 10,000 Small Businesses program that I graduated from, they showed us how to identify a growth opportunity as a line item in, say, your cash flow projection, and to say, this is what we're going to launch this year. Okay, once that's good, we've tested the viability, let's launch something new the next year and the next year, and you make this 5-year forecast, then you can scale responsibly rather than going crazy and growing too fast.
Right. And I think at least for me, it's scary to look at financials and actually see what your balance sheet is and understand all of that, so I can understand why people are nervous about that. And I think that's a really good point you made, Kirk, about, like, how much do you want to make? And are you asking that, like, how much do you want to personally make, or what do you think the business needs to make in order to be operational and cover everything?
How much you personally want to make.
Yeah.
And part of that is that they don't realize they have to pay both halves of Social Security, both halves of Medicare, and all of a sudden, well, you want to make 100,000? Well, that means you really need to make 130,000.
Right.
And if you're going to do a restaurant, that really means you're going to have to, the restaurant's going to have to gross 1.3 million. And then you start working backwards on, well, okay, how many people are you going to do each day?
Yeah.
And what's the average check going to be? And it's a very interesting process.
Very interesting process. You just mentioned something there about the, and I love it because I've used it a lot, and I think it's helped me out a lot, is figuring out where you want to be and then taking those small baby steps back to the beginning. Because I think I want to get your opinions on this, but, like, entrepreneurship, in order to make it to the big goal, you can't really focus on the big goal. You got to focus on all the little baby steps that get you there, right?
Yes, and sometimes it takes a leap of faith. So, the concept of focusing 80% of your time on the 20% of things that are going to yield the highest results. If you look at my email inbox, it's embarrassing. I have so many unopened things because they're not important.
Right.
Whereas last week, I drove to Seattle and back in one day to meet with a client that was worth it.
Right.
So
I guess how do you guys balance that? You said 80-20 rule. Do you have a list that you make every day, or what's your kind of workflow on prioritizing what's important to you for that day and what's important, I guess, overall to your success?
It's a good question. I don't have a process for doing that. It just sort of organically happens for me. I do respond to everybody. It just depends. Maybe I respond more robustly to some people than others, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I guess you could probably tell from an email, like, how serious somebody is based off of kind of the questions they're asking or how far along they are.
What I normally do is, when people come in, I give them a bunch of homework to do. Like, if they want to open a restaurant, I say, who's your competition? And I want you to go outside their door and count the number of people that go into their door every day during these times, so you can start getting some kind of idea of volume. And they go, well, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay, well, I guess that's done.
Yeah, right.
I'll still work with them, but it indicates that they're really not very serious about doing the business.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about it's organic. So it's an intuitive feeling of what is going to have the highest ROI. And so one way that we think about it as a process in 509 is, what's your zone of genius? So if you can imagine a matrix, you've got your zone of competence, incompetence, excellence, and genius. And the goal is to be in the zone of genius as much as possible. The stuff you love, the stuff you could do in your sleep, the stuff that you do for free.
Right.
But you're going to get paid lots for it. And we get stuck in the other three zones. Things that, okay, yeah, sure, I could do my own taxes, but should you?
Right.
Or even the zone of excellence, where you're close to what you're really good at, but you want to get in there so that every day is just awesome.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Well said. It's really hard to do too, especially, in my business was super small, in my side hustle, but I get caught up in the weeds sometimes, like, what should I wear, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, just show up and rock the party, and you'll get paid, and it'll be fun, and you'll get business from there. So that's just great advice. Well, so how has you guys have both kind of did this nomadic life and all that stuff. How has that kind of played into your roles with teaching or helping people in this entrepreneurship journey? I guess we'll start with you, Carly.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Kirk was saying that he RV'd later, and I retired early. I did RVing in my 20s and 30s, and being nomadic and traveling all over, I've been to 20 plus countries. I really cite that as the reason why I see the world the way I do. And there's always a solution to something, and if you don't have it, you need to go explore some more. And so I just get so many different angles when I meet with people who are different than me. And I also learned that we have so much in common. So
Right.
it's just this shared humanity experience.
Yeah, so I would agree with you there. I grew up in a small town, moved to LA, which was a complete shocker. Met a bunch of different people that didn't look like me and talk like me, and it really changed my outlook and perspective on life. And then moving back to a small town, I brought my wife from there, and it's kind of done the same thing for her. So I think all those different experiences and like getting to know the world outside you is very important. I would 100% agree with you. Kirk, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was interesting. I was thinking about it because I learned a lot from what I did from my dad, who really didn't like his job. And he did a very good job taking care of the family, providing for all of us, but he really didn't like his job. And I just went, I'm not going to be that way. And so the nomadic thing that I've done is just been to keep learning and growing, and to now be at my advanced age and be talking with some of my colleagues who haven't had the experiences. It's hard to imagine all the experiences I have had, and I feel very blessed to have been able to do that.
That's awesome. And those, I think some people just get caught up in how they feel comfortable. I have friends in the small town who've never left, and they feel like they're completely fine with that. But I think you're missing a real important piece to not only share with your family, but to share like your view of how society works and different things you can do. So I guess we're running out of time here. I started the clock a little late here. So what would be a piece of advice you'd give to someone starting on their entrepreneurial journey today? Kirk, you want to go ahead and go first?
So for me, which I think actually Carly should probably go first, from the standpoint that get yourself psychologically prepared to do it. And there's a really good book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and it talks about the 3 personalities that you need to run a successful business. And then what I didn't do when I first started in business, I didn't have a plan. And it's really important to have a plan. And so that's my number one recommendation to people. And it doesn't have to be overly sophisticated, but you have to be able to have goals, and measurable goals that you can look at each month to see, are we getting there or not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without the data, you have no idea where you're going. I mean, it could feel good, but it might be horrible.
Yeah.
Carly?
That's perfect, and I really think that Kirk's right. It's a balance between passion and planning. And we also have a book that we hand out in month 0 of 509 Female Founders. So when you sign up, you get this book, which is the crossroads of should and must. And so should all day. I should do this. I shouldn't do that. You're telling yourself. Other people are telling you. It's a lot of shoulds. The shoulds. But there's a little quiet voice in the back of your head. But I must do this. If I don't do this by the time I die, I'm going to regret it.
Yeah.
So you need to go for that because it's going to keep you going through those long nights of entrepreneurialism and have a plan.
Yeah, and as I've gotten older, one thing, I was always the should or gotta be nice to do this. And some of the things that I've done in the last 6 years, I've just done. Like,
Nice.
I don't think anymore. I'm like, I should do this. Well, just do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm trying to start a podcast right now, so I just order all this equipment. I have no idea what I'm doing with it. My wife's angry at me, but I want to do it. I've been talking about it for 4 years, so just do it. So I think that's sage advice. And if you need help with that, reach out to Carly or Kirk, and they can get you going with that. And so thank you, Carly and Kirk. Let us know how they get in touch with you if somebody's looking for some help with their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, sure. So we're karmadesign.is, and then my business coaching website is carlysiroky.com.
Perfect. And Kirk?
And so it's the Washington Small Business Development Center, WSBDC.org.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. It was a very interesting conversation. I could go on about this all day. I could sit here all day. But we have to get out of here for today. So thank you for joining us on Network TV. And tune in next week, and we'll have another episode coming at you from the NCW Live channel.